This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with this Black History Month special. Back in 1993, Dr. Maya Angelou recited her poem On the Pulse of Morning at Bill Clinton's first inauguration. She was the first poet to make an inaugural recitation since Robert Frost at John F. Kennedy's inauguration in 1961.
Mr. President and Mrs. Clinton, Mr. Vice President and Mrs. Gore, and Americans everywhere. A rock, a river, a tree, hosts to species long since departed, marked the mastodon, the dinosaur, who left dry tokens of their sojourn here on our planet floor. Any broad alarm of their hastening doom is lost in the gloom of dust and ages. But today, the rock cries out to us, clearly, forcefully, come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance, your mouths spilling words armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, come, rest here by my side. Each of you, a bordered country, delicate and strangely made, proud, yet thrusting perpetually under siege. Your armed struggles for profit have left collars of waste upon my shore, currents of debris upon my breast. Yet today, I call you to my riverside, if you will study war no more. Come, clad in peace, and I will sing the songs the Creator gave to me when I and the tree and the rock were one. Before cynicism was a bloody sear across your brow, and when you yet knew, you still knew nothing. The river sang and sings on. There is a true yearning to respond to the singing river and the wise rock. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They all hear the speaking of the tree. They hear the first and last of every tree speak to humankind today. Come to me, here beside the river. Plant yourself beside the river. Each of you, descendant of some passed-on traveler, has been paid for. You who gave me my first name. You, Pawnee, Apache, Seneca. You, Cherokee Nation, who rested with me, then forced on bloody feet, left me to the employment of other seekers, desperate for gain, starving for gold. You, the Turk, the Arab, the Swede, the German, the Eskimo, the Scot. You, the Ashanti, the Yoruba, the Kru, bought, sold, stolen, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river which will not be moved. I the rock, I the river, I the tree, I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands. molded into the shape of your most private need, sculpted into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here, on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country. No less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
This deal, we must underscore, marks the largest ever attempted overseas acquisition by a Chinese firm. The largest ever acquisition by a Chinese firm is ChemChina's takeover of Syngenta. The deal has raised eyebrows over what could lie in store for Syngenta. Syngenta employs over 28,000 in some 90 countries. But China, of course, saying to the Swiss, this is not a nationalization. They're calling it a fantastic transaction for Syngenta. Let's watch this now. Have you also noticed that Rusal, UC Rusal, has agreed on a price for Alpart with Chinese buyer? Owners of UC Rusal have signed an agreement with a Chinese firm for the purchase of Alumina Partners of Jamaica, Alpart. That is taking it to Jamaica now. The Jamaica Observer reported that the process is likely to be concluded by the third quarter of 2016, and that the price had been agreed on, and that the Chinese company will now enter into its due diligence phase before the financial close later this year. We're going to tie that acquisition of Alpart by this Chinese company to another acquisition, Haier, which is the Chinese company Haier, which is buying GE appliances for $5.4 billion in China's second big U.S. acquisition. We're talking about GE appliances now, so connect that to alumina. GE said in a statement, GE CEO said, we're pleased to be selling our appliances business to Haier and to launch this new partnership. The CEO, Jeff Emmett, said that Haier has stated a focus to grow in the U.S., build their manufacturing presence in the U.S., and to invest further in the business. Innovation, new product introduction, and brand management fundamental to the overall strategy, they tell us. But make that connection to the acquisition of an alumina company to the General Electric company, which is a company that produces electrical appliances, and then some. China's on last Tuesday, the Wanda Group, which is led by China's richest man, Wang Jialin, also announced that it is purchasing, and this is another acquisition now. It's another acquisition that China has also acquired through China's richest man, Wang Jialin, a majority stake of one of the biggest U.S. entertainment industry, Legendary Entertainment, This China acquired for $3.5 billion. A majority stake of Legendary Entertainment for $3.5 billion, and the biggest U.S. entertainment industry purchase of its kind by a Chinese company. Wanda, of course, is buying into one of the most successful film businesses of modern times, delivering hits including Jurassic World, Inception, and Straight Outta Compton. The acquisition of a legendary company will make Wanda Film Holdings out of China the highest revenue-generating film company in the world. So media and communication, film and the film industry, alumina, bauxite, electrical products, genetically modified food. All of these are some of the biggest acquisition by any foreign country in recent times. All happening in quick succession. What does this mean for the continent of Africa? And what does this mean for Jamaica? We're watching these acquisitions. We have put them all together. They have appeared at different times in different places in different newspapers. But we're putting them together. We're going to be looking at them once again as critical thinkers. Thank you on Facebook. Yeah, we love the term. Tell them so we are conspiracy theorists. But we have switched that. We're changing the narrative. Critical thinking. And then we'll, in our forum, because we do have that China and Jamaica, China and Africa forum that's coming up, we will be having these discussions. What does this mean for the continent of Africa? What does this mean for black people generally? And how are we to respond? Because at this stage, we're going to have to be reactive, even if we want to be proactive, because we're too far behind. Let's try some innovation now to see if we can be proactive. Innovative thinking, innovative doing. We are going to go to the phone lines to speak with Wazir Mohammed. Wazir Mohammed, of course, has been really, really invaluable to our understanding of what's happening within the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. We thank him so much for always making himself available. Assistant Professor of Sociology at Indiana University East, Chair of the Richmond Human Rights Commission. He speaks and writes on issues of Islam and human rights and on the works and ideas of Walter Rodney. Of course, you know, Walter Rodney was assassinated in 1980. The inquiry into his assassination began April 24, and we were expecting by now to see the report at least out of that inquiry. But lots have happened in between, and we are joined on the phone lines by my brother, Wazir Mohammed. Wazir, good morning. Thank you so much.
Hi,
once
morning,
again.
Tabu. How are you doing?
We are doing very well, and you?
I am okay.
All right. Well, just saying thanks before you came on the line to you for being available these many Sundays since 2014 to talk to us about the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. Now, we're hearing, last we spoke, we're expecting by now that at least the report would be published. But a lot has happened in between that, Wazir, and we want to talk about that. First,
all right. When
we left here on Sunday, just to back up a bit, last Sunday, a report came out that, or did we talk about that? There was no ink for the commissioners to finish printing the report to hand to the president of Guyana. Help us to understand what has happened prior to that, and where we are now with the report.
Well, let me just, basically, Andrea, the commissioners themselves have issued a statement yesterday that you should have in your possession that explains everything that happened since Monday. But I want to just go back to talk about the importance of this report. And I want to begin in this way. We have to understand the amount of time that has elapsed since Walter Rodney was assassinated. For instance, I was 22 years old in 1980. Mm-hmm. Walter Rodney was 42.
Yes.
I am now 58. Walter would have been 78.
Yes.
It has taken this long for us to reach this point where there was an inquiry and where a report is available. And we have reached a stage through 36 years of struggle. We've struggled every year for 36 years for an inquiry. From this background, we are glad that the report is now complete. After 36 years, there is a report on why and how Walter Rodney was assassinated. And this report is now in the hands of the President of Guyana. Whatever happened and transpired between Monday and Tuesday in relationship to the lack of ink for the printing of the report, for the why the President did not receive the report himself, why the commissioners were sent to the Attorney General's office. All of that has been explained in the statement put out by the commissioners yesterday, and those are issues we would expect that the government of Guyana would address. So at the moment, we know that this report is in the hands of the President of Guyana, and as such, we await the President of Guyana's response and acknowledgement of this report. We believe that it is in the interest of social justice, national unity, and reconciliation for the President to make this report public. It should be recalled that this inquiry was called for by the National Assembly of Guyana in a unanimous vote in 2005, in which the now ruling party that the President represents in government voted in favor of that resolution to bring this inquiry into being. Mm-hmm. So the President can, while this was a presidential inquiry, he can decide in his judgment whether how he will make it public, whether he will lay it before Parliament, or how he will do that. Mm-hmm. I must say that we, as from the Justice Committee and people in favor of justice across the world, is looking forward to reading the report. I must say that in cases of commissions of inquiry in Guyana, the accepted protocol has been that the government releases the report to the press, publishes the report, and make it available for the public at large to purchase. This has been the accepted protocol. Mm-hmm. So we expect that all things being equal, that this procedure will be followed in this case also.
Mm-hmm. The report, and I think it's a point to underscore. I don't know if I was, ahead of myself, but I thought regardless of all that happened in between the lack of ink and the fact that the report was handed over to, according to the reports coming out of Guyana, to a junior member of staff. So despite all of that the report would, at least by now, would have been published. I don't know if I'm ahead of myself with that. Were you expecting that it would have been published by now?
Well, I mean, we have to give the President time and a chance to digest the report, and that is in his purview. And so I think that we should give him time,
Mm-hmm.
But we would expect that that they would acknowledge the report, and that they would at least give us some timeline about its release to the press and when it will be published, so that we can read it.
The press release itself is pretty interesting. It's a long time I haven't seen such a lengthy press release, but very, very detailed, which suggests that the commissioners themselves were faced with challenges.
Well, I mean, the point is that for almost a week, there were people from the government who were speaking on why the report was not handed in on Monday, and so the commissioners were being blamed, and so they had in my view, a duty to answer those questions, and those are the questions I think that were answered in the long press release that they have put out.
Mm-hmm.
So that aside, Andrea, from our standpoint, from the Justice for Walter Rodney standpoint, they have done their work, and so we would like this opportunity. I mean, because this is the first time since the report has been submitted that we have had a chance to speak. We would like to publicly thank the panel of eminent Caribbean jurists for their work. We would also like to thank all the lawyers and others involved in making this inquiry the success that it has been. That without the active participation of the lawyers, the inquiry would not have been complete. Witnesses before this inquiry was adequately cross-examined and tested by the quality of the legal team representing the various parties' interests and the Commission.
Yes, and
we also have to remember that there was a number of people, staff of the Secretariat, who needs to be thanked for pursuing the task diligently in supporting the commissioners in their work.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Wazir, with all the brouhaha in the end here, and there have been challenges leading all the way up to this, has that affected, and what's the likelihood that will affect how people view the report at the end? Do you think there's an attempt somewhere inside of all of this to discredit the report?
Well, I mean, there is. I mean, the assassination of Walter Rodney is a political act, and so there would be forces that would want to discredit any kind of report. But I would not get there at this time. There is a report. Let the report speak for itself. That is why the report needs to be released and published.
Yes.
And let all parties take a step back. Because remember, we have said from the beginning of this process that at the end of it, we would like to see reconciliation and we would like to see national reconciliation, because national reconciliation is important for moving forward. The whole set of people in the world who was affected by the assassination of Walter Rodney. So, we let the report speak for itself.
Yes.
And so we have to understand, and people on all sides, the government, people on all sides have to take a moment and reflect on the fact that the whole set of people across the world call themselves Rodneys, and try to understand why people call themselves Rodneys. Because the loss of Walter Rodney is irreplaceable. The work he began through his ideas has to be joined. He's not going to, his ideas are not going to walk away into the sunset. His ideas are still important. Inequality, racial, economic, and other inequalities that are structural, that he represented by his ideas and fought for, they've widened in the world. So we have to understand that, and everyone, including the president and the government, have to understand that this is not, Walter Rodney is not going to go away. His ideas are still there, they're potent. So this process that brought this report into being and this inquiry into being had to do with answering the passion countless folks from all across the world. And you know, this Walter Rodney Justice Committee has brought together people from all areas of the world to make this call and to be a watchdog over this process.
Talk about being a watchdog over the process. I think that continues. Now that we know the president has the report, more vigilance than ever before. I encourage my colleagues in the media to get on this story immediately. Ask questions. The commissioners have retired, so to speak. Or Jacqueline Samuels Brown here in Jamaica has committed to be on this program once the report is published to further help us to understand. And I know in Barbados that people are reaching out to Sir Richard Cheltenham, but I also encourage my colleagues on the ground here in Jamaica to take this up to ensure that there is justice for Walter Rodney.
Andrea, before we go, I just wanted to say that this report and the process is important for the family and relatives of Walter Rodney, the extended political family of the WP and other fighters for social justice in Guyana, the Caribbean and beyond, to get a sense of relief that there is official recognition of his work and life and why he was assassinated, which we hope the report would represent. And one of the things, and you made the point about the media, one of the things that the media need to understand, that there are people who were affected by this process more directly. And as such, I want to remind our viewers that as this process unfolds, we also cannot forget the unfinished business. That is the urgency for justice for Walter Rodney, Walter's brother, who was in the car when Walter was assassinated. Donald has suffered for 36 years from charges that was laid against him. It is time that all charges against Donald Rodney be withdrawn. There is enough evidence that came out in the course of the inquiry that can be used as a means to discuss how these charges can be withdrawn. Okay. All right. And why they should be withdrawn.
We'll certainly be following those up. Thank you so much, Professor Wazir Mohammed. Thank you so much. I do believe that we'll be talking to you next week.
Thank you for having us again. And, we look forward to be on the program again. And we eagerly await the report.
Thank you so much.
Publish the acknowledgement of the report and the publishing of the report.
Okay. Wazir Mohammed, thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you, Andrea.
Our Africa Youth Forum continues this morning with students, lower sixth form students of York Castle High School here in St. Anne. Tavare Clennon, who is deputy head boy, member of the School Challenge Quiz and Healthy Lifestyle Clubs. Javon Smith, member of the 4-H Business and French Clubs, also a prefect. Ashley Smith plays volleyball. She's part of a choir and is involved in dance, speech and drama. Chanel Daly is part of a choir and the Healthy Lifestyle Club. And Renicia Anderson is a former student council member and peer councillor and a member of the 4-H Club. They'll join me in the studio this morning in the Africa Youth Forum.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth. Echo, echo, echo. Echo numbers man, echo, echo. Echo numbers. Ça qui gagne ti moun grand yo ka prend plaisir. Guiné yo content oui. Pour aller quatre makaya vini bamboche echo. Parler dans nous temps de echo toyer na mandwa.
All right, if you go to the Facebook page, Justice for Walter Rodney, you can follow the Commission of Inquiry, the progress of a Commission of Inquiry. Up to this point, postings from Wazir Mohammed over time. Also, we have reposted the very latest on our Facebook pages. So you can also find information. We just posted, for example, the report in today's paper in Guyana, talking about the disappointment of the president and quoting the press release. So that is on my Facebook page, Karbuma at Kiru. It is also at Running African, the IRI FM Forum, Running African, and also at the Justice for Walter Rodney page. Glenn Garwood on Facebook says, African we are by descent, my sister. Jamaicans we are by birth. Lest we forget Jamaica. Jah made us, US. What was created by the hands of Jah will not be destroyed by man. What we go through now was engineered by man. And then he says, Hotep, my sister. Negus Negast, commenting on Syngenta and China's acquisition of Syngenta, says Syngenta create atrazine. And we're going to look up atrazine. You do that in the meantime also, because I know Negus Negast what kind of drug you say it is, but I think it's much more than that actually, and how it is used is very, very important. So let us also pay some attention to that. And also on Twitter, we get a Twitter in a while, but let's go to the phone lines to speak with the director, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum, my brother Herbie Miller. Just reminding you that all the music you're hearing today, as we continue for the month of February to focus on African retention, they can take everything, but they'll never take the music. And as long as we've got the music, we'll free the people. Music from Haiti. As we go to the phone lines, where standing by is Herbie Miller. Herbie Miller, good morning, sir.
Good morning, my dear. How are you, Kabu?
I am doing very well, and you?
Yes, I am here doing well too.
Okay.
Good thanks, and to the listeners, good morning.
Yeah, another busy day for you at the Jamaica Music Museum, because today another big event. Before you get to the event, just remind us of what the Jamaica Music Museum is doing this month and why.
Okay, this month we are doing our Grownation series as we do each February have done each February for the past 4 years. This is our 5th. Mm-hmm. And what we use Grownation to do is bring in scholars and others who have lived the experience they'll discuss. And that experience is Black life in this new world, mm-hmm. and how the arts, in our case, particularly music, but in addition, spirituality and philosophy of Black people, yes. have sustained us from such time, and especially through the slave trade and plantocracy period, mm-hmm. until this time in a very modern plantation society. And we want to use these forums to discuss various aspects, I said. For example, last year, the drums in Africanist diasporas. Look at that throughout the diaspora and how drums have played a pivotal role in sustaining us. And so this year, we are looking at the life and the music of Don Drummond, one of the founders of the Scatolites and the creators of ska, fine jazz musician as well, and an outstanding Jamaican, yes. who, like many of us, have a tipping point and reached his when he committed an act that put his lady out and him in the mental institution. In a few years, he was also out of here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's not what we are suggesting we should emulate, but to be mindful that, as Professor Hicklin says from time to time, many of us still do carry that post-slavery trauma, which translates into a sort of schizophrenia.
Yes.
Looking at how Drummond, at his best, was a genius, and at his most fragile, someone who was checked into the mental institution at Bellevue. At his best, he created music which until today represent some of the most outstanding creative manifestations of any Jamaican. This week, we look at how Drummond has influenced poets, and songwriters, and stylists as well. For example, we have Professor Mervyn Morris, our poet laureate, the very well-acclaimed Miss Lorna Goodis, the internationally recognized Kwame Dawes, our own Jerry Small, and Raymond Meir, all poets who have thought about Drummond and used him as influence and muse to create some of their finest work.
That's happening today, Herbie. That's today?
That's happening today.
Right. Wow. That's a stellar lineup you've got there for today.
Well, you know, we try our best.
Some of us are going to be heading into Kingston.
We also have young Andrew Christian, an outstanding trombonist, also from Alpha Boy School, like his hero Don Drummond, who will participate in today's activities. But let me tell you what the added attractions are. We have 3 exhibitions. The Rastafari exhibition, which you well know about.
Yes.
I don't know if you have as yet seen our Morant Bay Paul Bogle exhibition.
No, I haven't seen that. And that's there today too?
It's there. It will be there way beyond today.
Okay.
And our music exhibition, Curating Music, Building a National Collection, all will be available for visitors to pass through. So do come early.
Yes.
We had a large crowd last week, and it's first come, first serve. Of course, it's free. And
food free again, Herbie?
Yes, man.
Pardon me,
but let me tell you, we have some good sponsors. For example, when Linstead Market comes, and they always do, one of your good friends, I won't call the esteemed lady's name, to join the line 3 times without apology or shame.
You know, that's on that very Shepherd, but I don't know if it's she.
Is the next one.
Vereen, I apologize, Vereen.
Not Vereen is the next one.
You know, I don't know.
Anyway.
All right, but we'll go on. But okay,
so...
Man,
JMMB has come up and allowed us to be as generous as we can with offering the stellar lineup and the refreshment.
Okay.
Of course, without IRA FM, News Talk 93, and I dare say over at Nationwide Radio, where they have been very kind to us over the years, all 3 of these stations, the television stations, both of them have been extremely open to our pleas for some publicity. CPTC has come on board this year. They're recording this for posterity. And Chase Funds, for the first time, assisted us.
That's good to know.
So we're doing much better. And let me tell you, we have been getting such great feedback on the program. If you aren't able to make it, have one of your people bring you one.
Yes. Wow. So once again, Herbie, today, February 14, at the Jamaica Music Museum.
2 p.m. 2 p.m. The Institute of Jamaica, 10 to 16 East Street. That's where the Jamaica Music Museum is. As small, as modest as the building may be, the idea and the collection is way beyond that. So especially for those who never knew, I want you all to know. It's at 10 to 16 East Street at the Institute of Jamaica.
All right.
2 p.m. Admission free, family affair.
And you have managed there today to really pull together some of Jamaica's best poets. I mean, you're talking
from at home and abroad.
Oh, goodness gracious. It is going to be brilliant today, I'm quite sure. Tell us again who the poets are who are going to be there today.
Sure. Our poet laureate, as we all know, is Professor Mervyn Morris. He'll be there. Kwame Dawes, he's a professor out of here, but Jamaican to the core, as that's written on Drummond. Lorna Goodis, what can we say about this lady? Jerry Small, very popular radio talk show host, cultural curator and carrier of the flame, and Raymond Meir will all be there. They have all written poetry on Don Drummond. They know Don spiritually, if not personally, and they will be here to help. Pardon me, to help us understand Don Drummond as a poetic muse.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Herbie. Jamaica Music Museum.
Thank you so much.
This is where this is happening. And we'll hear from you again next week, I'm sure, when another brilliant event
will talk with you next week as long as you have us.
All right, give thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right, Herbie Miller there, Director Curator of the Jamaica Music Museum. It really does sound good, doesn't it? And, he mentioned Jerry Small there. Jerry Small has a birthday coming up on Tuesday. Happy birthday to you, my brother Hotep, Ank Uja Seneb. Life, prosperity, health. All right, you're inside of the Africa Forum, Winning African. I noticed also that the Nyabingi Ancient Council, Royal Ethiopian Judeo-Coptic Church, Rastafari Millennium Council will be documenting via video recording or cultural mapping by staging a Nyabingi Symposium in Trenchtown. That's today at the Multipurpose Center, 10 to 18 5th Street, between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Can we get somebody to talk to us about that, please? Guest speaker for the day, Junior Lincoln, Herbert McKenzie from the Office of the Public Defender, Empress Nana Harris Barrington, Human Rights Attorney, Mrs. Lily Claire Bellamy, Executive Director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. Can we have one of the organizers quickly, even if it's later on the program, give us some information on this happening today? Also happening today here in St. Anne, the cultural activities in Miami Bay. We're going to be speaking to one of the organizers for that, Sophia Walsh-Newton, who is joining us on the phone lines to quickly tell us about the event that's upcoming. Thank you, Sister P, for keeping me informed on this one right in our backyard here in Miami Bay. Sophia Walsh-Newton joins me on the phone lines now to talk about that event right here in St. Anne, Jams Villa, as part of the ongoing African History Month celebration. Sophia, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
My sister, I am nearly vexed with you because you have this big thing going on in Miami Bay and I hardly know about it, but here we are. It's not too late.
Well, I did send a flyer to you on Facebook about a month ago for you to be aware of the event.
And I did mention it, I did mention it, but I don't keep dates in my mind like that, and that is why it totally missed me. All right, so let's talk about this. This event, it started on Friday, did it?
It started actually in Kingston on Wednesday, so we couldn't leave out the Kingston people.
Mm-hmm.
So we diverted our original plans just to head to Miami Bay, and we did a drum workshop, master drum workshop, and a master dance class in Kingston for the Edna Manley students and for the drummers in Kingston.
All right. So
it actually started in Kingston.
Okay.
On Wednesday, and then we came to Miami Bay on Friday, where it started here.
Okay. What happened on Friday?
Well, on Friday, we opened the first Jamaica African Dance Arts and Culture Festival.
Mm-hmm.
We brought down some master teachers. One is from Guinea, West Africa. His name is Yusuf Kumbasa, well-known master teacher worldwide. And we brought down one of the newest Guinean drummers from Guinea, West Africa. His name is Abdoulaye Touré, as well as a master teacher from Senegal. His name is Edie Cease out of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So they're here. We teamed them up with some master teachers from Jamaica and from the States. And we had 10 instructors, and including Antoinette Steins and Amani Steins and Carol Russell Smith from Mandeville. And we're just hosting just a number of dance classes that celebrate the African retention, that is so strong here in Jamaica. And we're just showing how we all are one. And, in addition to that, we're offering vendors, local vendors, to come and provide some economic sustainability to the local.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're talking about that. Before we get to the vendors, let us look at today's activities, because you're kicking off in just a few minutes actually, because I see where you're going to start at 8:00. Tell me what's happening throughout the day.
So at 8:00 we're having the last of 3 classes with Yusuf Kumbasa, EDC, and we're doing a Kumina class with Carol Russell Smith. Yes?
Yes.
And then at 1 p.m., we are kicking off our festival presentation, where we'll be having a rutical, article, cultural festival that involves everyone that came down. We had 34 people come down from the state, from Chicago, Arizona, Florida, Atlanta, New Jersey, London. People are here from all over, from Mexico, and as well as people that heard about it locally.
Okay.
So we've had a great turnout. We're hoping that we get more people to actually come to the festival, because not everyone does dancing, but we are doing festival presentation where we'll present some dancers, some dances, some spoken word. We're doing an award presentation to 3 people today. One as a Conscious Queens Award to in memoriam of Nana Adugo.
Yes.
Honora Ranglin.
Yes.
So that's we're kicking off the Conscious Queens Award here in Jamaica for the Conscious Queens.
And the other two people, I don't know if I was...
The other 2 people is a Cultural Ambassador Award to Mama Sister P, Pauline Petinard.
Yes.
For her work here in Jamaica with Pan-African awareness.
Yes.
And the 3rd award is a Cultural Warrior Award, and that will go to Brother Profi Reynolds.
All right. Sounds good.
So we're honoring them,
yes. And it's happening today at...
Today.
Yes. Tell us where.
It kicks off at 1 p.m.
Right.
The price to get in is $1,000. And then we have a student rate of $800 Jamaican, and the children rate of $500. Of course, we will work with our people. We're not going to turn anyone away.
All right. And this is at Jams Villa. Where exactly is...
Jams Villa is in the Marmy Bay Estates compound, which is right next door to Rio Hotel.
So you do have to turn in. You're coming from
you have to turn in,
yes.
Speak with security. They will already know you're coming to the event, because people have been in and out for the entire weekend.
Yes. And
I'm actually due inside now to host the first class at 8 a.m.
All right, we're gonna let you go, Sophia. We're gonna let you go.
Thank you.
All right, and all the best today, Sophia Walsh Newton. All right, okay, so it's happening today in Marmy Bay at Jams Villa. Coming up in the program, we're going to be speaking we're literally turning over a segment of the program, not all of it, to our young people in the Africa Youth Forum, and they're going to take the next 45 minutes or so, and in their own special discussion, looking at the Jamaica political scene, especially within the context of the upcoming general elections. So the discussions will be led by Tavari Clennon, who is a deputy head boy, member of the School Challenge Quiz and Healthy Lifestyle Clubs. And they will introduce themselves when they come in. Javon Smith is a member of the 4-H Business and French Clubs. Ashley Smith plays volleyball. She's part of the choir and is involved in dance, speech, and drama. She's also a prefect. Chanel Daly is part of the choir and the Healthy Lifestyle Club. And Renesia Anderson is a former student council member and peer counselor, member also of the 4-H Club, and they are all lower sixth form students at the York Castle High School here in St. Anne. So they will be hosting the next 45 minutes or so, and they're coming in very, very bright and chirping this morning. Good morning, good morning. So here are my new co-hosts, making their way to the studio, making their way to the microphone, and they'll be taking you, when you hear from us next, it will be me throwing it over to them as they take you through the next 45 minutes or so of the Africa Forum inside of the Africa Youth Forum.
Valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Vale tan longtemps de Eko, poutoye, la mandra. Aïe aïe aïe, Eko, Eko, de Eko, la sa qui vient du monde, vanga au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko, 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 de Eko, l'ambousson, sa qui gagne du monde, gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, oui, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Valé tan longtemps de Eko, poutoye, oui. Aïe aïe aïe, mais qu'on doit, ça qui gagne du monde, gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez oui, Eko, 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 tant de Eko, l'emboston, ça qui gagne du monde, gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, oui. Valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Valé tan longtemps de Eko, poutoye, oui. Eko, moi dans l'Eko, l'embosson, ça qui gagne du monde, gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Eko. Gandra au cap plaisir, qui est au content, valele, kat makaya, vini bambo chez Aïe aïe, mes gens, mayo allo, mes gens, mayo allo, yo beaucoup connaît. Ben c'est nous qui en mayo allo, c'est nous qui en mayo allo, yo beaucoup connaît quand doit. Dina mayo allo, Dina mayo allo, yo beaucoup connaît moi. C'est nous qui en mayo allo, c'est nous qui en mayo allo, yo beaucoup connaît moi. Dina mayo allo, Dina mayo allo, yo beaucoup connaît moi. C'est nous qui en mayo allo.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and we're throwing it over now to the Africa Youth Forum. And the lower sixth form student representatives of the York Castle High School, Brownstown in St. Anne, they're in the studio. They're going to be taking you through the next, as I said before, just about 40 minutes or so of the program. So I'm throwing it over to them. They will introduce themselves, introduce the program, and take the discussion from here. So I know leading things off is Tavari Clennon, the deputy head boy. So Tavari, I'm throwing it over to you and your very able team.
Good morning, Jamaica. I'm Tavari Clennon, member of the sixth form of York Castle High School. I'm deputy head boy, part of the School Change Schools Club, and also part of the Healthy Lifestyle Club.
Good morning, Jamaica. I'm Chanel Daly, prefect of York Castle High School, sixth form also, part of the Healthy Lifestyle Club, part of the school choir. Yes.
Good morning, Jamaica. My name is Ashley Smith. I'm a member of the sixth form, lower sixth, York Castle High School. I'm also a prefect. I'm part of the volleyball club and the school choir.
Good morning, York Castle. Good morning, Jamaica. My name is Javon Smith. Attending York Castle. I'm in the lower six and I'm studying sciences.
Good morning, Jamaica. I'm Renisa Anderson. I'm part of the York Castle High School sixth form.
Alright, so this morning, basically, since it's election time, election season, and so basically as youths, election would affect us, whether you know or not. So basically, we'll be discussing some things that affect us and things that we want to put forward to the government, and also some ideas that could be used to help to better the country. So first off, we'd like to start off with the recent apology that the Prime Minister won from the opposition leader, thus forcing the idea that they won't participate in the national debates. The national debates, to me, is a forum that provides Jamaicans the opportunity to understand what their political parties are planning to do or want to do to help to better the country. If a political party decides that they're not going to take part in a debate, a national debate, it's kind of like injustice to the people, because it would make sense to have one party talking about what they're doing and you don't hear what the other party wants to do. And so therefore it affects the country in some way. So even though it's a 60-minute or 90-minute program, so it does draw out a lot of ideas, does get a lot of content out of it, and the people of the country do get information that they really want, the hits and bits that they could know. During that debate, they could even help, which could even help to the undecided voters to decide which party they would vote for. Right?
Yes.
So that's really my take on this issue.
Well, I agree with you. I don't see. Well, I'm in agreement with what you just said, because I don't think the country needs to know about the personal life of our politicians. The main thing that's supposed to be set before everybody else is the fact that the country should come first. So all of this is just irrelevant to me.
Isn't it supposed to be like they come on to show, to tell us what they're going to do to like better the country?
Yeah.
If the PNP is in power, aren't they supposed to like convince us why we should vote for them again to put them back in power? Or are they supposed to come out of the debate and just leave it to the JLP to tell us what they're going to bring for us? How are they going to tell us, or are they going to give us the strategies that they're going to use to better the country for us?
That's true. And so therefore what we are asking as young people, we'd really love to see the two political parties taking part in this national debate, in order that we as young people can even decide whether or not this party is more capable of managing the country than the other party.
Well, in my opinion, nowadays young people aren't really into politics, because I'm 18 now and I'm not even thinking about voting. So I don't think that they are involving us, really, the youth, into politics. So they need to get us more involved in what they're doing, because politics to me isn't about youth. It's about
the older folks.
Yes, it's mostly about older people, because when election time comes, you don't really hear them talking about young people, like how they're going to help us, like with our education and so forth. So I don't see how this election doesn't really matter to me in any way at all.
Well, if you watch the advertisement at the JLP, I think her name is Camila Johnson Smith, I'm not sure, I think that's the name. She's coming forward, they are coming forward with some education ideas, but people are saying that they're not feasible. If they're not feasible, then they won't work.
Yeah, but the only time they start talking,
then they won't work.
Yeah, but the only time they start talking about all these stuff is when they want our votes. This is the only time they talk about it.
That's why, as people of this country, what we need to do is that once a party or a person decides to make a promise, ensure that that promise is fulfilled. As a country, this is a democratic system. We as people, we have a voice, so we can't just sit back and just watch and say, oh, they made a promise and oh, they didn't fulfill it, okay, and life continues. We as a people need to urge these parties or hold these parties responsible if they do not give us or fulfill those promises that they made to us. And another problem is that, say for instance, you have one party in power and you have another party as opposition. So say for instance the PNP in power now, and the PNP comes across with some good ideas, and then the election process is over, and then somehow the JLP won, then, just a scenario. What would happen is that the JLP one just push off all the ideas that the PNP has put forward. Some of these ideas that these political parties are putting forward are actually useful and could actually help to better the country. But the problem is, once a party goes in power, they just push off these ideas, clear off the table and say, oh, we have our own ideas. We don't need the ideas of the other party. And seems so vice versa, if the other party is still in power, or if the other party was in power and they come in, they would clean up these ideas.
And we're seeing the responses on the social media, so many persons responding to the conversation, the discussion so far. Do me a favor, our hashtag is hashtag JAChoice2016. That's hashtag JAChoice2016. If you use anything else, we might not be able to find it because we're not looking for that. And I see that you're using other hashtags that don't belong to us; they belong to other media. Even though you're ensuring that you're tagging me in those posts. So it's hashtag JAChoice2016 as we throw it back to the students at from York Castle High School. Tavara Clennon, back to you.
Before the break, we were talking about the ideas that the political party come across with, and new parties just come in and just whitewash those ideas.
Alright, back to what you were saying earlier on, right? You said that we the people don't talk about things that they don't do, right? It's not that they don't talk about it, because people really try and they send letters to them, but yet they don't answer. It takes months just to get a response. But when election time, we see them run come, you can get to see them easy. I don't think it's that the people are afraid, they just don't see them at all.
Yeah, that's a problem, because it's only when a specific time, like election time, you only see like major improvements going on.
Yes, so and then
you only see water, like you see people putting pipelines, you see people trying to fix roads. People who never have this are getting these things just in order to basically buy the vote, in a sense, from these people, which is unfair, because if you in power for all these years and you haven't helped the people, why you choose now when it's near to the time where people have to decide whether or not they're going to continue with you or they're going to put you aside?
I beg to differ with what you just said, because in some communities, instead of giving them the water that they actually want, they send water trucks, and then they send the water trucks for like 2 weeks, and then after election there's no more water trucks, and then they promise to fix the road. People have to be walking careful, because if they don't, then they'll break their leg, and if they do have a vehicle, they have to drive careful because they will destroy that vehicle. And it's quite unfair for us to put our trust in these people, for them to execute what they promise us that they will execute, but instead after the election they all disappear. It is quite unfair, and they need to stop it.
Yeah, that is very true.
For both of the parties, like this right now, PNP is in power. Like, they give us all these ideas that they're going to improve Jamaica and whatever, but then when we put them in power, we give them the opportunity to carry out their promises. Nothing is done, and then the people will change their minds, vote for the JLP, and then the same thing happens. So how am I, for someone who is able to vote now, supposed to choose which party I want to vote for, when none of them to me is better, because they're not carrying out the promises? So what are we supposed to do?
It's kind of funny, right? When I say this, I don't really mean to say anything, right? I don't blame the political parties for using us. If we are the people, if we the people continue to be foolish, I mean, why not take advantage of us?
Well, that is true, because that we're very gullible. Because, alright, so for instance, you have people now, they don't know who to vote for. Somebody just throw a little fun there, put 2 bucks on one and say rum, beers and whatever, and say, you know, say him feed we, and yes, when we put him in a power, same thing go happen. People, they are taking advantage of us.
These people are not thinking about the fact. These people are not thinking about the fact that when they come and they give us the alcohol and stuff like that, when they leave us after election, where are we going to get alcohol from? They're not thinking about that enough.
Well, that's
they're
not
thinking
their
about
problem.
let's
That's our
enjoy
problem.
ourselves.
We must think about what we're going to do, for what's going to happen in the next 4 years or 5 years.
And that's why I think politicians are like, you know, like bad gas. When you have like bad gas in your vehicle, you need to flush it out before you can put the good gas in there for the vehicle to operate, right? Yeah. So I think that we have the power now. The power is in our hands.
Yes, but we should
flush them out.
Gas, but we getting back bad gas.
Then keep on flushing. Now one day somebody will get the memo that, hey, if I don't do my job,
how long can we flush for?
As long as we have to.
No, all right. Look here. So after we get them in power and everything, people, you know, see that only time they come around is when they want our votes, and then after a while you don't see them anymore. I've been in Jamaica for 18 years.
I guess they're working. I guess they're working.
PNP has been in power for 5 years now, and I haven't seen our Prime Minister before in person. I've only seen her on television. I know that for most of us, we haven't seen our MP. Like
I don't even know who the MP of my community is.
That's the thing. They're supposed to be coming around.
They're supposed to be active.
Yes, coming around in our communities. What are the problems? What can I do to help with this problem? They cannot know our problems sitting in their offices and whatever. Look at our principal. He always walk up and around his school and whatever, and looking for us, trying to motivate us and whatever.
Every morning.
He wouldn't be able to know our problems if he was sitting in his office
all day.
Exactly. So when he comes and he will ask what the problem is and whatever, and I'm gonna try and fix it, right? But our MPs, they're not coming around. How are they supposed to better us? They say vote for whichever party for a better Jamaica. What is a better Jamaica? What are they supposed to fix to make it a better Jamaica? They won't know
because it's not bad. They don't want to come around. They don't care enough to come around. After they get their jobs and they're getting their pay, they don't care about us any at all.
Don't give them any fee.
That's why we should be wise. You know, some Jamaicans actually vote because, oh, my grandmother was a PNP or my grandfather was a PNP, so I'm going to vote for the PNP or the JLP. They're not thinking. They're not analyzing this.
It's supposed to be for a change, you know. It's not supposed to be who you like.
Yes, majority of them don't have a logical reason why they're voting for the PNP or why they're voting for the JLP. They're just doing it because I can vote for PNP, so I'm voting for PNP. Or I love Portia, or I love Andrew Holness. They don't have a logical reason.
What is Portia or Andrew?
That's why you have an increase in uncertain voters, because persons are now realizing, especially the younger persons, they're now realizing that these politicians are just coming in, making promises and not fulfilling these promises. And so therefore, if this election, you're going to have basically the only set of people who can vote this election is basically persons who say are die-hearted
die-hearted
PNP and die-hearted JLP, basically.
That is why we as youths should think before we vote. We don't have to vote, you know. No one is obligated to vote. So we should think before we vote. If we know that they are not going to do anything after the election, why do we vote? Why do we keep putting the persons in power that are not doing the things that we want or what is necessary for us? So we should think before we do things.
And another thing is that now that it's election time, we have to be careful of the color that we wear, and that is just so wrong. Because if I want to wear a orange shirt or a green shirt, I have to be careful because somebody might just see me and just decide that, hey, she's a JLP and I hate JLPs and I'm going to kill her, and then just fling things on me. That is just wrong.
Exactly. How they're supposed to be saying that they want to lower crime rate? I know that in election time, they just kill people for no reason because of the color that they're wearing. And so for instance, I'm not on any side, but then I want to wear a green shirt. This person gonna say yes a JLP member for next thing you know, they go shoot me, kill me.
And memory of friends, yeah.
and I was putting it on to represent any party. So how
you have to be very conscious nowadays.
Yeah, but how they're saying that they're for the people and whatever, and election is causing us to be killed.
All right, and another problem now is that there was a scenario where you had the chickpea. It came on a sudden. Wait, the chickpea first came on a sudden, and now the Zika.
Right.
Now you see that because the chickpea did us so bad. You see how they ramp up preparations for the Zika. I don't have a problem if you ramp up preparations. The problem is the country should have been in a state from a good while now so that any sickness or so forth we just adjust and can deal with the problem. Not because Zika is coming, you see everybody start cleaning up all these things. The country should have been in a state where initially where you don't need to have to get a big tractor to decide to clean up gullies and all these things.
Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory.
All right, we're back with you. It's the Africa Forum. We're inside of the Africa Youth Forum, where young people from the York Castle High School discussing political issues this morning. The discussion being led by Tavari Clennon, the deputy head boy, in studio Javon Smith, Ashley Smith, Chanel Daly, and Renisha Anderson. We throw it back to the students in the Africa Youth Forum.
All right, it's the final segment now, so we're basically going to talk about things that we could do in order to, if we were, say for instance, if we were to go in power, some ideas that we're proposing to the government then.
Alright, quickly guys, for the Twitter folks out there, remember hashtag #JA Choice 2016.
What I would say to the government and the other politician is that what I would say to the other politicians and the government is that they try to unite. Even though they're opposing parties, they can actually listen to each other. So don't bash another idea from the opposing party just because it's JLP or PNP, but actually think about these things, because we are the persons who are suffering. They should think about the country. The country is supposed to come first in all of this. So I'm implementing that the government and the politicians play a more active role in the country. Go to your community that they actually give to you and stop disappearing after election.
All right. As for that, Ashley, before our party can even run a country, I think the first thing they need to do is to ensure that their political party is intact. Yes, I mean, the JLP recently have some serious internal problem. I don't understand. Everybody running against Andrew. Yes, and the people trying to kill people and all these things.
Yes,
I mean,
they're not united.
They're not united.
They're not united at all.
So for the JLP, I'm assuming that you heard, try to get your party intact.
Yes, they need to be very united. How can you want to run the country? Exactly. If you can't run your party, you need to get united and whatever. So you need to, the politicians and the MPs need to go around their country, be more involved with the people. I doubt that any of the MP that really knows any of the citizens in their constituency. They should get involved and say, what can I do to help you? What can I do to better this community? I think that they should do that, like go around and get more involved. And
you see, for the next party in the next political party, the first thing I think they need to tackle is
the Rasta party.
Not the Rasta. Well, if they win the election, why not? The first thing I think they need to tackle is the education system. Yeah, they need to fix that. Like, next thing.
Yes, and because of election now, nobody talking about Zika anymore. And look, the virus can affect the babies, right? And babies are supposed to grow up to be the future. Exactly. So nobody not they're not focusing on it. It's just about election. After election, yes, the virus is still going to be here, so they need to
already, so who cares?
Yeah, but still, no matter which party in power, they should be putting the country first and saying that how can I yes, to like, because now the virus is here, right? And I don't see anybody.
Alright, so what can we do in terms of proposing these ideas? Or say, for instance, what could we do as young people in order to help this country?
Well, as young leaders, the first thing we need to do is to start at the lowest level. We need to start at the community level, right? We need to start like having some more community meetings and
youth clubs
and get the other persons in the community involved.
And I think the MPs, the same issue that I have with them, I think they need to come into the schools and get ideas, have a little forum, have a little talk with us.
Right.
If you should come in as an MP to a school for one day and just sit down for like 30 minutes, the amount of ideas that you could garner from that little 30 minutes that you sit down with us, the amount of ideas you could get, you'd be surprised, and you could actually use these ideas to help better the country.
Yes, because you're coming in and we are the ones who are in the country and who are facing the problem. So of course, if you come in and talk to us, they're going to get ideas how to better Jamaica.
And please do not just hear what we have to say. Please listen, because hearing and listening is different. You have to listen and act on it, because what we are saying, we are educated students. What we are saying is for the country, the good of the country. It's not just for ourselves, but it's for the good of the country.
It's not only for them to listen. It's not only for them to listen. We, the people, must also follow up with the doings of the party in power. Right. We must ensure that, yes, they're going to do X, they must do X.
And therefore holding them responsible for, as I said before, holding them responsible for any unbroken, any promises that they made that they didn't fulfill. We as a people need to stand up and say that you didn't fulfill this,
so we
are holding it against you. You shall pay the penalty.
I think that they should come to your castle and talk to us. No, I think that they should come to your castle and talk to us, because I'm sure that we could give them some very good ideas. Exactly. I think that we could give them some very good
ideas. And we as the people also should stop voting because of our ancestors, but vote because of a logical reason. So if you do not have a logical reason to vote,
do not vote.
Do not vote.
Yes, vote for who can change, like who can better Jamaica, because what's the sense you want change and then you're voting for somebody
same old. So every 5 years you come in, it's the same old sufferation, same problems
and then
again
they cry
and
that
again.
They want justice.
Exactly.
If you want justice, they're not getting justice, they're not going for the justice. They just want it.
A smart scientist once said, if you use the same method to solve the same problem, then you will keep on getting the same results. Exactly. So we should know what that means. I already said what I have to say. It's just for us now to apply this to our lives.
Right.
So in basically,
wait, one more point. Yeah. I think this government or the next government, right? I think they should help with more jobs. We need jobs like wow.
Yes. That's
permanent jobs, not like jobs to clean up the road or something.
We don't want any Jeep jobs like those. We need real jobs.
We need
those type of jobs and engineer jobs and all these things.
Yeah,
we need
to implement training.
There are lots of promising young people
in the advertisement. What are they talking about? What are they saying that they're going to give us? They're just saying a better Jamaica.
And that's a problem. That's a major problem, because if you come with an idea, we need to know the from A to Z what exactly is it. So for instance, since they're coming with this saying that we're going to get job cuts, explain to us. You can't just come up and say, oh, there are going to be job cuts, and oh, we're just going to sit down and take it. You need to explain to us in detail why there will be job cuts and how are you going to try and solve this problem as soon as possible. anything that you say, you need to correct, because it's not everybody in this country is educated enough to understand the big words where you are used.
Yes, that is why they can
you
manipulate.
You need to break down. That's why you manipulate, as I said, manipulating us. You need to break down these things so that even the small baby can understand then
what we're going through. It's kind of our responsibility to get educated too as well. So I still don't really blame the parties for using us. We are foolish. We deserve to get used until we get more sensible and stand up as a country. We'll continue
and stop using the same method to solve the same problem.
All right. So in closing, we basically are saying that as a people, as a country, we as a people need to stand up. And we need to unite and think.
Think about who can make Jamaica better. And then you vote for that party.
And do not allow them to make promises that they won't fulfill.
Yes. So thank you for listening, and do have a lovely day.
All right. Thank you very much. The Africa Youth Forum, you know when they come, that's how they come. This is how they do their thing. Members of the Africa Youth Forum from the York Castle High School, Tavare Clennon led the discussion. Deputy Head Boy Javon Smith, member of the 4-H Club, French Club, Prefect Ashley Smith. Smith plays volleyball, part of a choir involved in dance, speech and drama. Also Prefect Chanel Daly, part of a choir and a Healthy Lifestyle Club. And Renisa Anderson is a former Student Council member, peer counselor, and a member of the 4-H Club. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Really refreshing. Check the social media posts when you're through. But in that case, you got to follow me on Twitter at Karbuma at Keru. There you go. Follow me on Twitter. And check my Facebook page also, because the comments are there. Lots and lots of comments from our listeners. With just 3 minutes to go before the cash pot, I'm going to give you a chance to say hello to your teacher and your friends and your mothers and your fathers and so on. We start with you, Tavare.
I would like to say hello to all students at Yarkas who are listening and those who are not listening, especially those from 12O, Spence, Gerald, Sakai, Trish, everybody, Rhonda, everybody, Erica, everybody.
I would love to say hello to my mother, my brothers, my sister that is at home listening, and also my father.
Yes.
Everybody else, whether from church, in the community, all over. Thanks for listening.
I would like to say hello to my mother, my father, my brother, my aunts, uncles, cousins, every person, people from church and school.
I'd say hello to mommy, daddy, my sisters, and my friends from 12O. Everybody, hello.
Hi, the Yorkist team, and mommy, daddy, grandma, grandpa, community, everybody.
And I said thanks to grandma, everybody else.
And thanks for listening.
And thanks for listening.
And thank you so much for coming. Really, you really added something this morning to the program. We really do appreciate that. And we hope you are now reading our books, because you are now officially members of the Africa Youth Forum and members of the the Running African Book Club. The books are right here.
Oh.
No.
So we're now reading China in Africa, Chris Alden. We're also reading Dragon in the Caribbean, China's Global Redimensioning Challenges and Opportunities for the Caribbean, Richard Bernal, our own Richard Bernal. And we're reading China into Africa, Trade, Aid and Influence, edited by Robert L. Rothberg. So we hope that you'll come back and discuss these books at a later time.
Yes,
no problem.
All right, brilliant. Thanks so much to the students of the York Castle High School who came in to lead this segment of the Africa Forum this morning. Tavare Clennon, Javon Smith, Ashley Smith, Chanel Daly, and Renisa Anderson. Thank you so much. Safe travel back.
When we lose our African connection, we lose our world connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house.
You're inside of the Africa Forum, running African, the soundtrack this morning from IT. Inside of African History Month. Last week he gave you African Cuban rhythms. This week we're giving you Haitian African rhythms, African Haiti rhythms. All right, the Nyabingi Ancient Council, we understand that there will be an event today, Sunday, February 14, at the Trenchtown at the Multipurpose Center, 10 to 18 5th Street. It's starting at 10 a.m. We're going to be going to the phone lines to speak with my sister Maxine Stowe, who is an intellectual property consultant and one of the organizers of this event that's happening today. As we say good morning to Glenn Garwood, to Dan Wilkins, my brother Kwame Pianke, my sister Selector Princess as usual, Irie daughter, we're seeing you. As we go to the phone lines, Maxine Stowe. Good morning, Maxine. How are you doing?
Yeah, blessed love.
Greetings, greetings, my sister. All right, so today, the Rastafari, the Nyabingi Ancient Council, in association with the Coptic Church, Rastafari Millennium Council, and so on, will be putting on an event. Tell me about that event and the background to the reason for it.
As you know, it's Reggae Month, and also the Kingston was just designated by UNESCO as a music city. And so in celebrating that and informing that, we decided to put on this event to show the role of the Rastafari community, specifically the Nyabingi order, input in the development of the music coming out of Trenchtown and East Kingston, but Kingston proper. Okay. So it was actually an informative event because, as you know, the UNESCO, the whole process, it deals with the oral tradition, expression, social practice, ritual, festive event, knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, and the traditional craftsmanship that makes up the foundation of any music for it to be designated, by UNESCO. And as you know, there's also a move to make reggae also a listing on the UNESCO. And in doing that, it has to be linked to a community, right? And so... When you said
to make reggae a listing on the UNESCO, explain that for me, please.
Well, there is, in order to, because reggae is such a global form now with, many different countries and personalities that are using the art form.
Yes.
It is important for Jamaica to retain our knowledge that it began in Jamaica, because we have ska, for example, that we have to be struggling, for the world to recognize that ska was actually birthed in Jamaica, because you have more ska groups outside of
internationally,
Jamaica.
I've noticed that. Yeah. Did you see that documentary also that was carried, I think, on one of the global media? I think it might have been the BBC on ska. The good thing about that is that they actually brought it back to Jamaica, but it was surprising in a way to see how international groups across the world had taken on ska and had made it their own. So in a way, the question is, as you're saying, at what point does Jamaica claim the music? So what do we expect today? What's going to happen today?
Well, what we're doing, the elders are important. They're the oral tradition and history of the beginning of this music. So it all began in Trenchtown with the youth black faith and the Nyabingi order, being developed there. That's where the first Nyabingi drum was created, and it's from there that Count Ozzy, transferred or took up that energy and took it to East Kingston, where, he influenced the whole development of the Scatterlights. That's where jazz met Nyabingi, coming into ska. So what we're looking at today, we've summoned all the elders, with their memories out of Trenchtown and, Akiwalk and Bakawal to speak about, their knowledge of that history. And as well, it's also the 40th anniversary of, as you know, three of the most significant albums. In 1976 was Black Heart Man, Legalize It, and Rastaman Vibration. So we're also, with the Honorable Bunny Wailer, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Black Heart Man, signifying also the importance of the Wailers in this whole, history
All right, so
of this music.
So with just a minute to go, Maxine, also speaking today, I see there's some special guest speakers today to tell us who they are, in addition to the elders.
Speaking today will be Junior Lincoln. He'll be talking about the whole development of the heritage of Trenchtown. As you know, that's a major activity regarding, tourism development and history. The Public Defender's Office, Mr. Mackenzie, will be there expounding on the Rastafari rights or, the government's developing response to dealing with the Rastafari community in terms of the atrocities and how that can be done. And then we also have Ms. Bellamy from the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office to speak about, the advocacy that we have been doing and where the government has reached now in terms of developing proper intellectual property frameworks to protect our music and our culture futuristically, but also in reclaiming a lot that has been lost, in the past.
Well, it sounds very, very good. Really does sound good. And we need to talk to you afterwards just to see what comes out of it. I know you're going to be documenting this as part of the cultural mapping from the release that we have here. So we expect
Yes, we had applied to Wipeout to get cameras, because that's part of the mapping, is to get the oral testimonies of the elders. As you know, that played a very important part in the Coral Gardens,
report, yes, investigation. Yes.
So it's the same thing here. And we'll also be capturing Akiwalk. We'll be capturing the elders' recollection of the 1966 50th anniversary, which will also be announcing from the Nyabingi Ancient Council what our participation in that 50th anniversary will be like.
Oh, brilliant. So we'll hear more of that once you're through. All right. Thank you so much, Maxine. And please keep in touch. All right.
Okay, will do.
So Maxine Stowe there from the an intellectual property consultant talking about the event today, which will happen in Trenchtown. Today is Sunday, February 14 at the Multipurpose Center, 10 to 18 5th Street. It starts at 10 o'clock this morning and it goes through to 10 o'clock this evening. You're inside of the Africa Forum. It's Running Africa. And still to come inside of the forum, we're going live to Israel to speak with David Sheen, independent journalist and filmmaker, about the death of 19-year-old Tavit Ratcliffe. Tavit Ratcliffe operated a missile system in the Israeli army, missile system that defends from other missiles. She died there, was killed. The Israeli government has ruled this as suicide. Journalist David Sheen has been investigating and will bring us up to date. For me, it's a three-headed month, so they should have a podium there for the church. How can I have a podium for the church? One, you see, the thing about the political debate, it must include PNP, JLP, independent, and church. True. Church is one. And private sector.
You mean that
private sector.
Pastors vote PNP?
Yeah, the pastors vote PNP. They've been saying vote PNP and vote JLP forever. It's just that this one come out and say it publicly. Others have done it through their action. And you can see from them action where they, Pastor Finn could not be JLP. Everybody know Harold Blair's situation. They have been what they have been and who they have been. And in every single church, barring none.
It's true.
That it is what it is. And that not said that church is more, because they're going to vote anyway. They're part of the electorate. So they must have their own thing. But I wish that they would preach Pan-Africanism from the stage, from the pulpit, like how them preach, partisan politics.
Europeanized church. Church of Europe.
Black power we are dealing with that. We're not going to be caught up in the intellectual masturbation of a question of black power either.
True.
It is what it is. So yes, I wait. But man, you're going to be at the thing. Look away. We cannot fail our ancestors. Please vote. But it's tough because, it's a three-headed monster. And I don't know. I know people saying that you should vote none of the above. I don't know if that is on the ballot.
Who would you vote for?
No, because if none of the above is on the ballot, which I don't know because I haven't checked, then it seems to me that I can go register as my name. I changed my name by deed by deed poll to none of the above, and none of the above must win. I don't have to campaign. Exactly. Asta Black, you should not have gone to the NDM. You should have called yourself none of the above and ensure that it's on the ballot, because you'll be the next Prime Minister for sure.
Asta. I think he's a CC old boy. Yeah, big up CC.
He's a CC old boy, is it? You know that Asta is now with the NDM though.
Really? I thought he was independent.
Well, I think he's still independent, but I think that there's an alliance that has been formed. Okay. Yeah.
To be honest, I don't mind seeing a strong third party, but I don't know if Jamaica is that place. But
no, man, we're at that place, man. We have a strong third party right now.
Really?
A very, very strong third party.
Well, I'm gonna sit back and watch.
There is a strong third party. It's just that it hasn't really come together as a unit to put up people for stuff. But it's the strongest thing going on here, man.
Really?
Yeah, then you never know that.
I had no idea.
It's the alternative. People are jaded. People are upset. People see it's a two-headed monster.
True.
So I guarantee you the next election, you're going to see that party coming forward.
All right.
It's very strong.
I hope so.
As Kwame Ture say, African people are coming together now. Here inside of the Africa Forum, it is running African. And remember, that when you find out how Johan Blake, did you let me know at the Camperdown Classics? Hey, on social media, good morning to you, Glenn Garwood. He says, fascinating conversations among the young ones. What is in from the wise and prudent falls to the babes. Caleb Ben Selassie on Facebook says, from Veggie Meals on Wheels. All right, I'm just seeing that part of it, Caleb. I suppose you're saying something else. You said we need a program specifically on Pinnacle. What is happening to my Pinnacle tune I produced with Ken Booth? For me, if you do a song and you want it to be played on Running African, then you've got to be a Running African listener, know the kinds of rhythms, not the lyrics, but the rhythms that I play, and also, sometimes the lyrics. And that is why you haven't heard yours, Caleb. It's not that I didn't like it, it's that it's not the kind of music I play in this forum. So if you slow it down a little for me, I'm cool. And also there's a lot on ganja, so it's not so much about Pinnacle as it is about ganja. All right, Dwayne Stewart says JA26, remember it's hashtag JA Choice 2016. He says we need a law passed to make it illegal for politicians who make promises during election time that they can't fulfill and make them pay a fine of $500,000 with hard labor. Also 5 years in prison. Dwayne Stewart, he said we need a law to pass to make it illegal for politicians to make promises during election time that they can't fulfill and make them pay a fine of $500,000 with hard labor, also 5 years in prison. Dwayne, I love it. I really love it. 500,000 are good money. Yeah, man, a good fine now. All right, so 48.14, Wade is telling me 48.14 came first, Johan Blake at the Camperdown Classics. Kenyatta Dada says, listening to the youths, and they're really making some important points and suggestions. I hope the ministers are listening. The point about the party and their ideas, it all boils down to power. So if your party has a right plan for the country, you don't share it because you're lost. When are we going to realize they have no love for us? Alando Cardos on Facebook says, good morning, Cabo. Hail Alania Natoya Buku from Raymond Clarendon. Morning to you, Donna Mattis. How you doing? I'm seeing you. Ian General and Monica A. Collins on Facebook. Good morning to you. Ezra Campbell says, are these students registered to vote? If not, their comments are pointless. They need to understand the civic duties as a citizens of Jamaica. What good? Well, you know, the thing about that, though, you know, is that we first of all have to listen to them, and then it's a two-way thing. And your views are not pointless if you're not registered to vote. It's especially for that reason why we need to get you to register to vote, because you can make a difference. I'm talking about those with very strong views who are not registered. The fact that you are not registered, the fact that you don't vote, don't mean that your views are pointless. The thing for politicians, well-meaning, well-thinking people to do is to find these young people who are so jaded, who are so disillusioned with the system, to find them, to get them involved, to engage them. They can make a difference. Basically, we heard them say them, we want you to hear us, not just to listen to us. All right, on Twitter at Amy at C_Amy. Good morning to you. I know we do have to go to Israel, though. Courtney Richards at Rasras on Twitter. Thank you so much. We'll try and get back to the Twitter posts in a little while, your tweets and so on. In the meantime, we do know that we have to go to Israel. Going to be speaking with David Sheen, an independent journalist and filmmaker, originally from Toronto, Canada. He now lives in Dimona. He's no stranger to the Africa Forum. He's been on this program many times. This time he's going to be talking about Tavit Ratcliffe, a 19-year-old who served in the Israeli army. Tavit is was African Hebrew Israelite living in Israel, and she operated a missile system that defends from other missiles. Army service was the only way she could earn citizenship in the country she was born and lived in her entire life. A very close relative she was of Harriet Tubman. And we're going to be hearing more from David Sheen. We're standing by now to speak with David Sheen, independent journalist and filmmaker. All right, we go to the phone lines now where my colleague David Sheen, independent journalist and filmmaker, is standing by live from Dimona in Israel. David, thank you so much for joining us once again. Welcome to the Africa Forum.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. David, a little bit about Tavit before we look at the case itself. Who was Tavit Ratcliffe?
Okay. Tavit Ratcliffe was a young African-American Israeli woman. She did not have Israeli citizenship, although she was born in Israel and lived her entire life here. And the reason that she didn't have citizenship is because Israel only grants citizenship to Jewish immigrants, people who are considered blood Jews, who are converted by a European Orthodox so-called, stream of Judaism, but she belonged to a community of African Americans who moved here mainly in the 70s and 80s to Israel, seeing their spiritual homeland here. But unlike, Orthodox Jews, they were rejected at first. The government did everything they could to expel them. And only after several decades of struggle did the government sort of relent and agree, okay, you can stay in the country, but in order to be citizens, you have to serve in the army. And so at the age of 18, she enlisted in the Israeli army. And she was serving in the Israeli army as someone who was operating anti-missile missiles, so protecting from incoming missile attacks. And she was responsible for operating American-made Patriot missiles to defend against missile attacks. So she was 19 years old a year ago when she passed. I can just say about her, she was a guest in my home and a neighbor and a member of the larger community here in Dimona. Really sweet soul, very beautiful, very sweet, very tender and gentle, and very much loved by everyone in her community, and just, very tight with her family, tight with her friends, the kind of person that you would want to spend time with. And that's really a shame that her life was snuffed out.
And one of the things that you've pointed out about her too, which I didn't know until I read your note, was that she was also related, not too distant either, to Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, that's right. She does claim that formidable lineage. Her grandfather, paternal grandfather, was the grand niece of Harriet Tubman, if you can imagine that. So a direct genetic connection in any case. And so it, kind of has historical echoes, certainly all the way to our time.
Right. All right. Let us talk about your own investigation, because she was killed. She died. Tell us about that, what you know about that, and what led you to, as a journalist, an independent journalist, to investigate this for over a year, or close to a year.
Sure. Well, it occurred, she was shot to death a year ago on an army base in Israel, not on the front lines of any combat. As I said, her job was technical. She worked in front of a computer, far from the front lines of any conflict. So there's no reason why her life should have been at risk, essentially. About a year ago, the end of February, I was contacted by her family friends. I had just landed in North America for some speaking engagements, and they called me and told me about this. And there wasn't much I could do in the States except alert other Israeli journalists, colleagues of mine, to the issue. Unfortunately, sadly, for a whole number of reasons, it never really got reported, even though, as we said, this is the first African American to die in the Israeli armed forces. And since a year has passed since she's died, there still hasn't been any reporting. I came in, as I said, the family and friends contacted me. And for that entire year, the Army has not told the family what really happened to their daughter. It waited an entire year to submit to the family a very abridged, abbreviated report with its conclusions explaining how they believe Tovit died. For this entire year, they've just hummed and hawed and said, oh, we're working on the report, we're working on the report. It's a long time for a family to wait just to find out how their daughter is supposed to have died. It wasn't like she, again, on the combat field, there's no mystery around it. Admittedly, no one has come forward and admitted, but the insulting part is that even after an entire year, when they finally produce for the family the report, it's so, it tells a story that can be easily dismissed within just a few minutes of analysis. And that's sad to me, that they would care so little about the life of this woman that they wouldn't even bother to put together a half-decent cover story that would explain, at least, basic people, what happened. What they claim in the Army's report after a year. They say that Tovit died from her own gun, from her own hand, that it shot, that no other person was involved, so implying that she died alone, shot herself. Now, the problem with that story, besides the fact that the Army changed its story several times, the first few days when they met with Tawhid's mother, they said, oh, she was shot with 2 bullets. You know, hard to imagine how a person commits suicide by shooting themselves twice in the head. And then they said she was found in her bed, that we found her lifeless body shot in her head in her bed. And then they changed that story again. So the Army's changed its story several times. That's already suspicious. But then in their final report, they say that she was shot in the top of the forehead, was the entry wound. The exit wound was the back of her skull, the bottom of her head, close to the neck, and that the bullet exited and hit the door behind her. Now, if the bullet comes in the top of her head, goes out the bottom of the back of her head, that means the trajectory was downwards. That means the gun was pointing down. You feel me?
Yes. And you're in your investigation, from what I read, the report that you published, you also showed using Tawhid's sister, who was about the same height, how this was impossible. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that's just what I'm getting at. So the Army report says that she was shot in this manner and that the bullet was shot downwards. So for that to have happened, Tawhid would have had to have maybe she was trying to enter the Guinness Book of World Records as the most original form of suicide never performed before in history. I don't know, but I guess that's what the Army is implying, because they're saying essentially that she held this gun up at an angle, it's almost a meter long. And, without the benefit of a scene expert report that the Army did not give the family, we can only surmise. We built a model of a short M16 gun, which is the model of gun that Tawhid was assigned and carried with her. And we showed how it would have been physically impossible for a person of her stature to have actually held the gun up in that way and still reached the trigger with one hand holding the barrel up to her head, supposedly, as is posited in the autopsy report, and the other one pushing the trigger far away from her head. Now, perhaps if Tawhid was 5'8", as it says in the autopsy report, perhaps she could have reached out and killed herself in this very bizarre manner, but Tawhid was not 5'8". Contrary to the autopsy report, she was 5'3". Now, that's a massive difference in height for an autopsy to get so wrong. And to come up with this scenario, we're talking about like a JFK magic bullet type scenario. There's no physical way her body could have done it. And as you mentioned, we tested this out with Tawhid's sister, who's approximately the same build, according to her family. So if she can't even reach the trigger in the method that the IDF, that the Israeli army suggests, there's no physical way it could have happened. And if we can see that very easily, it's kind of an insult to the family's intelligence if after a year this is the best story you can come up with to explain how this young, beautiful woman's life was taken. So the family doesn't have any peace, because they themselves can see through. And sadly, it's a shame.
David, we don't want to lose you this time at all. Last time we did in the middle of the interview. Are you there? All right, I hope we didn't lose David. Can we try and get him back, please? All right, let's try and get David back on the phone. All right, I had that in the back of my mind. Didn't want to bring it forward because the last time we interviewed David Sheen out of Israel in relation to racism against Africans in Israel, because this is his focus as an independent journalist, looking at the treatment of Africans. Can we get him back online, please? We lost him there. We're going to try and get him back because the questions surrounding the murder of this 19-year-old Tavit Ratcliffe. And she's a small-framed, small-bodied woman. I mean, like really slender 19-year-old, looking much younger than her age. To suggest that she used an M16 rifle to shoot herself from the top of her forehead, that the bullet extends to the back of her neck, and to even suggest that she could pull that trigger with the rifle in that position. Read David's story, because we're posting that on our line, on our social media pages, and Google it too. But we're going to post the investigation on our social media pages from David Sheen. That when you see the reenactment of that using Tavit's sister, who is her height and build, that it was impossible, not even near possible. But then against the background that was done while she was on the job, literally. I'm picking up with you, David, that this was done while Tavit was on the job, which is another point that you raised, I think, in your investigation. So the first thing was that she was killed in her bed. This is what the parents were told, first of all. And then that story changed, that she was actually on duty. But the question being raised there is, was she alone on duty at that time of night? And what time of night was it exactly?
Yeah, she died sometime between 10 p.m. and midnight local time. The official Army report that came out a couple weeks ago now says that she was on guard duty in a small booth at the entrance to the base. That's pretty normal assignment for a soldier living on a military base to do guard duty. It was a 4-hour guard shift from 8 p.m. to midnight. And they're now saying that people passed by earlier in the evening, maybe at 10 o'clock, and saw her and everything was fine. But when the person came to switch her, to let her off of her shift and take over the next shift at midnight, that's when they found her body. So sometime between 10 p.m. and midnight is when the Army now says her body was found dead.
Is there something unusual in that? Do you usually have one person on shift like that? Isn't there, and especially a woman, isn't that there's something unusual there?
Well, the thing is, this is not an Army base in the middle of a conflict area. This is an Army base that's actually on the Mediterranean coast. It's about half an hour south of Tel Aviv. It's in the center of the country. It's not in a firing zone or anything where the people, there's families living on this Army base.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's more of yes, officially they do have guards watching the base, but that is considered a low-risk duty. So it's not uncommon to give soldiers guard duty just to guard the base when it's, a low-risk situation. It's not uncommon for it to be a woman, and it's not uncommon for it to be a solo security shift.
What's the main concern of the parents right now? The family members.
Sure. Well, her father lives in the United States, and he came for the funeral, but his life is in the United States. The situation is that her siblings, her surviving 3 siblings, and her mother are still here in Dimona in Israel. And Khadija, Tavit's mother, her main concern is what happened to her daughter. She can't have peace in her heart. She can't, move on with the mourning process until she at least has some resolution. But unfortunately, she's not really in a situation where she has leverage. She herself doesn't have citizenship in Israel. She disability pension and is a single mom, raising 3 kids. So it's not like she has the resources to hire a fence or any kind of lawyer, really, and to fight for her rights and ensure that she gets some answer from the Army. She's also afraid that if she speaks out and if she challenges the Army's official version, that maybe that will come back to haunt her, because the rest of her children don't have status, don't have Israeli citizenship, and of course, so their status is, basically she doesn't want to upset the Army for fear that it might come back to her, the rest of her children. So she's in a very precarious position, but she still feels like this. She feels super connected to her daughter still, even after she's gone, and she wants answers. She's gone to the American Embassy in the last couple weeks. I accompanied her there, and she met with an envoy from the American Embassy in Tel Aviv. And essentially what they said was, there's nothing we can do. It's an internal Israeli matter. You know, the army is incredibly opaque. There's no way to know what's going on behind the scenes. But they're just resisting. They're saying, we gave them all the investigation materials, but till this, I'm in touch with Tavit's mother just about every day. Until this moment, they have, it's a blatant lie. They haven't made these materials available to Tavit's mom so that she herself can go over these files and read what the Army's experts had to say. There's just, there's no way that she can get access. Perhaps save some outcry. Unfortunately, as we well know, the lives of young black people and black women specifically are not important to many people in this white supremacist world. So it's hard to generate.
I want to talk about that, David. Two things. To talk about that, but also to say, this is happening within a broader context. What's your sense of what might have happened? I know I'm calling on you to speculate, but you've been investigating this for a year. What's your sense on this? What's your take on this?
Right. Well, it's difficult for me to surmise the possible motives because we just don't have enough information. If we would see who the Army questioned and what they had to say, maybe we'd get some insight. I don't think, it's a possibility that maybe she got hold of some information and they were worried that she was going to do something with it. I don't think that's very likely based on, the information she had access to. I think, there are a lot of instances of sexual assault and rape in the Israeli army, just as there are in the American army and in other armies. So it's theoretically possible that could have been a motive for her, for someone to bring harm to her. She had been harassed in the past by another soldier when she was serving on a different base. The Army, report did not mention that at all. So there's just some possible reasons why something could have come up. The thing is, as I said, there is no small amount of racism towards people of color in Israeli society and racism towards non-Jewish people. Tavit was not considered to be Jewish, even though her family, abided by the traditions of the Old Testament, but not according to the white European Orthodox version of it. So I can't say what the reasons behind, whoever killed her are, but we can certainly surmise as to the reasons why it's covered up. The fact that, as I've detailed in my past reporting, Dimona is a town that, not unlike the rest of the country, there's a lot of racism. Walking around this town, you can see a lot of examples of racist graffiti calling for genocide of Arab people. On public, in public places, at the entrance to the city, on public buildings, you will see graffiti like this. If you report it to City Hall, they will basically laugh at you and do nothing about it. So that's the level at which, racism is acceptable in Israeli society in general and in Dimona society specifically. In front of a children's kindergarten in Dimona, there is graffiti that says, "We hate the N-word." Okay? And it's been there for years, as long as I've lived in Dimona. And even though this has been reported to City Hall several times, no one does anything to take down this graffiti. This should be supposedly the city's job. That's what we're paying taxes for, is it not? That says something about the level of racism that's tolerated by Israeli officials. So it's not, sadly, the Army in general is an opaque organization, and I don't think the lives of individual soldiers matter all that much, but certainly when it's the life of a woman, when it's the life of a black woman, non-Jewish black woman, it's even less valued in the society.
A sad commentary, David. How, if you were to, the many persons who are listening both at irfm.net and on the 107s on their mobile apps and so on, If they wanted to run with this story, to ensure that the story was out there, what would you advise them to do?
Sure. Well, if they don't have like a local affiliate here, they're more than welcome to reach out to me, contact me, and they can interview me about this. I would, say that they should interview others. Sadly, there's no one else really covering this story, unfortunately. It just falls between the cracks. I'll just say one more thing. Since this community of African Americans in Israel have, for the most part, don't have citizenship, that means they don't vote. They don't vote in any national election. It means that there's no politicians who are predisposed to help it, who see them as a voting bloc, and who therefore would try to, appeal to their interests. So even though this is, a matter of concern for the African American community in Israel, no politician feels indebted to them enough to even bring up this issue in any forum. So even politically, they don't have leverage. If someone's interested, please do contact me, and we can do an interview, or send someone to interview Khadija, Tawit's mother, and you can speak directly to her and, do the groundwork yourself. I'm more than happy to share the byline with as many other people that are interested. Sadly, too few are. But I'm easily contactable. You just go to davidsheen.com. That's my website, and you can see links to the reports and links to my contact info. And I'd be happy to put you in touch with Tawit's mother.
Why do you think, David, that racism in Israel hasn't hit the mainstream media? Interestingly enough, I saw a small piece on the BBC, which they ran for about 4 or 5 days, on Africans imprisoned, and we had interviewed you about those two in the so-called detention centers in Israel, and they ran that about 2 weeks ago. They ran that for about 4 days, but that's the first and only time I've ever seen anything coming out of Israel in the mainstream global media pertaining to racism in Israel. Why do you think that this is so?
Yeah, I mean, this is really my frustration of the last several years, because as you've had me on the show before talking about attacks on African refugees, running them into these camps, inciting hate attacks against them. We saw, a black baby stabbed on the streets of Tel Aviv, and the government didn't even want to provide for her medical bills, and a black man who was lynched just a few months ago on camera, and, not all of the people that beat him to death, that lynched him to death, have even been charged for this act. Really, really, really shameful hatred, incitement to hatred coming from the top levels of the Israeli government. And the reason we don't hear about it, it's a matter of incredible frustration for me. I have no option but to conclude that there are people for whom they feel so tied with this brand that is the government of the State of Israel that, they feel it's important to attack anyone who exposes any problem in the society, anyone who is a whistleblower. If it's about racism, if it's about sexism, if it's about corruption, if it's about occupation, whatever the case is, if it doesn't portray the government and the regime in a flattering light, then they go to work on them. And there are major pressure comes to bear. I've seen this myself, where the New York Times originally contracted me to make a video on the persecution of African people in Israel. After it was produced, they were shocked by how bad the racism was, that they just, walked away and washed their hands clean of it and said, we can't publish this. So, if the supposed flagship of the liberal media in the United States is too scared to report on this level of racism, then it's hard for me to imagine how a smaller paper or a smaller news outlet would have the courage, would find the courage to stand up to this assault from lobby groups who advocate on behalf of portraying Israel in only the best light possible and covering up all its myriad of problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do we get justice? How do we see justice for Travit Ratcliffe is a question now. What's to be done? Congratulations on the work that you have done. I must commend you on the investigative piece that you released, that you published. And we'll just continue to keep our focus on this and keep in touch with you regarding the wider picture of racism against Africans in particular in Israel. Thank you so much, David.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for your concern.
David Sheen there, who is an independent journalist and a filmmaker in Israel. He really writes extensively and deeply about the general racism in Israel. And here now, Travit Ratcliffe, a descendant of Harriet Tubman, even the black media, in the African-American media in the U.S., have turned a blind eye to Travit Ratcliffe's situation, and that is not because they didn't know, because David did reach out to them also regarding this story, pitched this story to so many media outlets in the U.S., and they have all turned their back on it. Well, his investigation is finished. It's being published, and we're following this here. Our sympathies to the African Hebrew Israelites in Israel, to that community, and also to Travit Ratcliffe's family, parents. You're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. Today, February 14, 2016, marks 135 days since one of the chief advisors to the Minister of Education and in the Ministry of Education, Franklin Johnston, rubbished CARICOM's Commission on Reparations, saying that the CARICOM's reparations brief is a Ponzi, referring to the reparations brief out of CARICOM and the reparations committee as a Ponzi scheme. 135 days. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter in the US. Black Lives Matter in Israel. Black Lives Matter in Jamaica. 135 days. A chief consultant advisor to the Minister of Education, and you should read the entire article because it really does go much further than this. We're watching Roaring River. By the way, I drove on China Highway, the latest leg of China Highway. It is beautiful, really beautiful. And, I said to my husband when it was all done and we had to hit the bad roads again, that I am actually suffering from withdrawal symptoms. I really felt depressed when the highway was done. Like, wow, couldn't this go all the way to Miami Bay, for crying out loud? So it really is beautiful, really is beautiful. And once again, we're putting things in perspective. We have no problems with the highway. We have no problems with China building roads and more roads and bridges and more bridges and train lines and so on and so forth. The problem we have is that we feel that what we give in return is too much. And I also do feel that we have not stopped to think about how to leverage our relationship with China. So we're watching Roaring River because we understand that is happening faster than it should, than was expected. Let me put it that way. It is still a watershed area. It is still earmarked for massive, massive development, not against development, because we do have to put those things in perspective. But we are very concerned about how this plan is going forward. We're very concerned that while we clamor for a debate, that we won't ask these questions outside of the debate because the ministers are available to speak, even if the Prime Minister won't speak. Omar Davis doesn't shy away from an interview regarding this issue. So why aren't we asking him that? You know, we can clamor for a debate all we want, but if we go through the entire year without asking the questions, we can't expect to get those questions answered in 1 hour in an election year when anything is possible to be promised. We cannot fail our ancestors. We must not fail our ancestors now. So now is the time to make a change. Now is the time. So we're looking at that. We're looking at the Roaring River situation. We're also looking at the beach situation. We haven't seen any manifesto. I don't know how we're going to have a debate. A debate was scheduled for Tuesday, but there's no manifesto. Where are the manifestos? I tell you, it's a two-headed monster joined by a third head represented by the church. So it's a three-headed monster, literally. One heart, three heads. Two legs, three heads. Because they'll do what they do and they'll do the very same thing. There is no difference between the JLP, the PNP, and dare I say, the church. When one man suffers from a delusion, it is called insanity. Not my words. When one man suffers from a delusion, it's called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it's called religion. And as our elder ancestor Kwame Ture says, we are not ever going to be caught up in the intellectual masturbation of a question of black power. That is for others, for the academics and the journalists who want to go there. He said, we were never fighting for the right to integrate. We were fighting against white supremacy. We were never fighting for the right to be given power, to be given freedom. Our decision, we have the right to freedom. You can't give that to us. We're fighting against white supremacy. We're fighting against neocolonialism. We're fighting against settler colonialism. And we cannot fail our ancestors now. You know, Mr. Max Flinker, at Max Flinker, you're not going to get me to retweet you talking about vote JLP. You know, I'm not going to retweet it. I read the tweet before I retweet, believe me. Okay, so I do a lot of retweets around here. And there are quite a lot of people, not just you alone, Max, who squeeze in a tweet from every now and again about vote JLP or vote PNP and not retweeting them. You know, I recall as a student at St. Mary High School, you know, I was going around in fifth form and then lower sixth and also in upper sixth with politicians from both sides who were handing out constitution and going house to house and talking to people about the Jamaica Constitution. I remember as a student at St. Mary High School attending some of these meetings at the different hotels across the North Coast and so on. That used to happen. So when I hear the students saying that they're not being engaged now, I'm a little bit surprised at that. That, with so many young people on both sides of the political divide, that at least the Constitution would have been something that the students would be engaged in discussion with the younger political aspirants, not for partisan sake, but for politics' sake. I do remember that. I remember that. And I remember the people I went around with, and they're still very active in Jamaica, so I ain't calling no names, but they were on both sides, and I was very, very, actively engaged in discussing the Constitution. That's what we were debating. We were debating the Jamaica Constitution as young students in high school, and that was at St. Mary High School. Bobby Montague is a past student of St. Mary High School. Bobby, I think that your ISIS statement was wrong, and I think you should be discussing the Constitution instead, all right? By the way, Bobby Montague is a very good debater. I bet he'll be on that stage. Well, Dr. Maurice Guy is also a past student of St. Mary High School. And a very good debater himself. So it is what it is. Keep your heads. If you can keep your head about you and all around you are losing theirs, then you are a man, my son. No, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, yours is the earth and everything that is in it, and what's more, you're a man, my son. Let me not misquote. Okay, 3 minutes to 10 o'clock. That was Rudyard Kipling. We do quote white people from time to time. Hey, we're reading now, just for fun, again, for the umpteenth time, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. And because of that, we're waxing poetic everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. Everywhere I go, I'm waxing poetic. So I'm reading the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, and I'm reading once again the wisdom of Khalil Gibran, because the prophet is like my Bible. So I do walk with that. I do have that. I can recite that from cover to cover. Yes, I can, the prophet. But the wisdom of Khalil Gibran is also another good book to read. And so too, by the way, if you just want to read and feel good about yourself reading good poetry, it's a Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. All right? So I give you those in addition to all the other hardcore texts that we're reading.
l'envoi nous était. Grand Rao, nous pas demander prêter. Société Grand Rao, nous pas demander prêter. Gain un temps haut, pour y a besoin, nous va pas, oui, c'est l'envoi nous était. Aïe aïe, Grand Rao pas demander prêter. Non pas demander prêter, oui.